Going to give us an idea about how to solder right. And I've had the privilege of knowing him for close on to about maybe 15, 18 years. His background is he has experience in troubleshooting all kinds of electronic equipment, valves, solid state, assembling, troubleshooting, and also teaching. He's part of Listener Radio and Electronics, which is opposite to Windsor Pub. And he also takes classes at MBJ College of Engineering. So, in the recent past, two areas where he's helped me out, just while he's getting started. One, I had a valve amplifier, an EL34PP Anthem amp, which went kaput. Now, unless you have somebody who has knowledge, they cannot troubleshoot. So the first step was, he asked whether I could get the schematic. So I sent a mail to Anthem in Canada. Luckily, they were able to send me the schematic. So then what he did was, very systematically, he started doing, feeding a signal in and checking. One channel was okay, the other channel was not. So we'll do the introduction afterwards. Okay. Venu is here. And Ramesh, right.
HiFi for all.
So this was something which no ordinary shop guy would have been able to do, but he was able to successfully do it and got rectified and singing. The second project, which is right now underway, which is almost done. Yesterday, in fact, Venu saw the project. It's an MPM speaker, and he's assembled the crossover, and we're just doing the assembly of the drivers into the enclosure. So he's knowledgeable, and he's an extremely nice guy to deal with. And by the way, I'm not related to him in any way. So what he's going to do is, he's going to explain basics of soldering, number one. Number two, this project is a valve preamp. It's called the Grounded Grid. It's made by a company called Transcendent in the US. I got this kit, and he was able to assemble it so neatly that even the manufacturer will take, he will look at it, and there'll be he'll be happy by the way it's been done. It's as well done as factory assembled. And he's also brought small packets of rosin. If in case anybody is interested, they can pick it up, because he'll explain what is the purpose of it, and solder, rosin, all the rest of it he will explain. So without further ado, I'm going to just pass the mic on to, not the phone, I'm sorry, I'll pass the mic on to him, and Philip will take over the session.
Thank you, Mr. George. I'm glad to meet all of you, because as I already given a lot of introduction, I did not introduce myself much, and some of you here know me personally. But let me tell you one thing. I've been in this electronic field right from my childhood. I'm not a professional. Let me tell you that. I'm not a highly qualified engineer or whatever. I'm just an amateur, and I assume most of you are. Yes or no? Yes. Because as I told you, I am also teaching in engineering college as a guest lecturer. There when I address fresh students, a whole lot of students, 60 students, etc. plus, I put them to sleep. The reason is, it is not related to the syllabus. They are coming to the college just to get that marks. And what I am talking is not related with the marks. They are just not interested. They are electronic engineers, promising people, going out to ME, MTech, whatever. Their background is wonderful. They are toppers in school, highly qualified in tuition, all kinds of tuition. I always say tuition meant for cats and dogs, not for human beings, but they are all tuition people, getting high marks, 90 plus, etc. They just drop down. There are two meets which I really appreciate. One is HiFi Meet right now here, and the other is Radio Amateur Meet, Radio Ham. Basically, I am also a radio ham. My call sign is VU2PKI. I got my license long back, 1977. In fact, that meet and this meet is full of energy, and we should be productive in the sense we should be able to do it It's not just talk and then forget about it and buy ready-made stuff and I have this, I have that, this is a frequency response, these are the peaks and etc. But have you done it? Have you created it is important. You see, I came to electronics by default. I was not interested in electronics. It is just like Rahul Gandhi trying to become the Prime Minister. Okay?
I'm sure I had more qualifications.
So, talking about soldering, it is, people say, okay, take 2 wires, join it, heat a soldering end, and put some solder. That's it. If it sticks, fine. If it doesn't stick, try again, then forget about it. Well, if that was the case, people like Sony and all those music people will have run for the money. Because all can possible things, but not that easy. There are 2 factors that has a big impedance on electronics. That is soldering iron and the usage of multimeter. These 2 are very, very important factors. People talk, but they just don't do. And they just shy away saying that I don't have time, I don't have the energy for it, it's available here, that guy will make it for me, and etc. But you've got to put your heart and soul into it. In fact, I don't know whether I'm boring you when I'm taking a class as such, because I'm just trying to tell you what's actually happening. So if that soldering is that easy, everybody can do it. Or doing a project that easy, everybody can do it. In fact, biggest fear of people entering the electronics for the first time is they ask a question: where I touch I get shocked, where I touch I don't get a shock. They're so scared, as if you are trying to put a finger into a parrot's cage. Don't know when it gets bitten. So scared of electronics. Basically, electronics is a low voltage operation system. Of course, current can vary, depends on areas, but nobody's going to get a shock. You got to be careful at the initial level, the entrance, the entry of the power, because all electronic equipment works on DC, but for valve sets are very, very dangerous, must be very careful. So that doesn't mean that you shouldn't touch them. There's danger everywhere. While crossing Bangalore roads also very dangerous, but must be really careful about it. So you should know where to touch or where to measure. So the usage of multimeter is very, very important, and usage of the correct usage of soldering. These 2 should be continuously used. So, as I told you, I am an amateur. Whatever I am going to say could be, there could be a difference of opinion among some of you who are professionals, I assume, and they can correct me later. But I'm basically self-learned. Nobody really taught me, because I always keep falling into trouble. I must get out of it, because my dad started institute and he was a government officer. He keeps going on tour and he puts me in charge of students. What the hell do I know? So I had to learn. So I had to do it. So I had to find my own methods. In fact, as a schoolboy, I had money in my pocket. That money was my own. The other guys' money were the pops or uncles or whatever. I used to earn little money by, that good old valve radio, putting the thread, the dial cord, 15 rupees would come off. It's big money. I was little soldering. And then I fall into small traps. I got to get out of it. People ask me questions. I break my head trying to find the answer. So that's my experience in electronics. And I'm continuing in the electronics. And in fact, I'm not working anywhere. As I told you, I have my own showroom and my institute, etc., etc. So talking about soldering, you've got to prepare the wire. I give 3 rules in soldering: S, C, and S. First S stands for scrape. You got to scrape. The wire is dirty or it is having some kind of oxidation or rusted, whatever. You got to scrape it very well. And when you scrape, what happens is, if you look at the scraped wire under a microscope, you are definitely to see lots and lots of ridges you have formed, injuries in the wire. And when you coat the wire, the solder gets into the ridges and the scrape section, it grips the wire, and then you got to solder it. These steps you got to faithfully follow for every little soldering. And soldering, remember, it is a very, very simple job. It is very difficult to do a dirty soldering or bad soldering. It's very easy to draw a straight line using a scale, but very very difficult to draw a crooked line using a scale. I do not know how people manage to do bad soldering. You just got to follow simple rules of soldering. Prepare the wire, coat it, and for coating it, I have told you this. Mr. George told you there's a thing called resin or called rosin. I have brought some samples of it for your personal use if you want to. The quantity what we need is very, very little. Probably the sample may last for you for 3 to 4 years. So that particular item is from extract from a tree. I believe somewhere from Middle East. So that's called as rosin. It is used in the manufacture of wood polish. You dissolve it in a quick drying solution and you apply it. That rosin is formed on the surface. So that is absolutely harmless. You breathe the smoke, nothing is going to happen to you. Whereas the commercial paste, the stuff what you use, no? Had I been using that material, I wouldn't have been living by now, or I died long back. So this is a very important factor because the chemical stuff what they sell in the market, the small round shoe polish like item, that's very, very dangerous. Provided you use it in well aerated room, it's got good air input and output.
One rosin is also available in India.
It's available in the hardware shops.
No, not this rosin, like natural rosin only. It is used in puja.
There are different types. There is a Christian rosin, the Hindu rosin, there is an electronic rosin.
I used that one for soldering actually, for long back.
One is very aromatic smell, no?
Yeah, but it does the proper job. Like
Yeah, there are different types. But our rosin is one that looks like, no, it looks nice, looks like halwa.
crystal kind of thing.
Yeah, smaller ones. Ours is much bigger. In fact, I have brought some samples. Some more could be powder form, but it can be heated up. So that is totally harmless. In case you're out of mood, it will bring you back to mood. What I am doing. You feel like doing work. So that particular thing, you got to. I prefer a wood pad, or like what we use a kitchen pad, cutting wood to cut the vegetables. So we need a rough wooden pad. We melt that rosin into that wooden pad, and the wire that is prepared, we immerse it. We compare it to making a bhaji. Bhaji in the oil solution, or in the oil, heated up oil. The stove is not from the bottom, but the stove is from the top. The hot soldering end is from the top. So that soldering end, you got to boil that rosin in the presence of this wire. Of course, a little bit of solder. See that it's well coated. The wire has to be prepared. And remember, electronics don't need very, very long wire. You just got to cut it short to the required area, custom made, and use it. And bring the soldering end close by, heat it. Please, for heaven's sake, do not lift the soldering end over and over. Lift, touch, lift, touch, lift, touch. One touch, you can move within the place. Take it off. Simple. And don't shake. It's very simple. I mean, this soldering is a big impediment where people think twice. No, whatever I do, it just comes off. When I tap it, it goes. I kick it, it comes. And all those things. All that problem is soldering. In fact, most of troubleshooting today's electronic devices is basically on soldering problem. In factories, they do mass soldering. The wire is not properly prepared, and moreover, Chinese are too good. They make sure they use minimum solder or low quality solder for everything. Especially when a wire is soldered, the wire tends to have that suction ability, the wick ability. So soldering that area, the solder is deprived. There is less solder, so it tends to crack. All kinds of problems you can find. So when we involve ourselves in good soldering and usage of multimeter, in multimeter I will always insist for a beginner an analog multimeter, because I'm sure most of your watches are digital analog. Analog. It's user friendly. You see. So analog multimeters to begin with is good because you will not get fed up. Lots of advantages of analog multimeter over digital meter. Digital meters are good, no doubt. They are the high-end variety. High-end variety in the sense they have their own built-in frequency readout and various levels of capacitor readout, etc. But a beginner should not begin with a digital multimeter. Simple reason is you tend to spoil it. And that's it. You will kick the meter, you kick electronics for good. Whereas analog meter can be brought back to life. and is user friendly, easy to read, and you feel like progressing. Just like God has given us test points all over our bodies here and there, the pulse, we have to create test points in the set. We got to find out where voltage is available. Is the voltage logically right or wrong? Of course, power supply is ruled out. I'm talking the main PCB. Where do we measure voltage? A bit of electronic background, not much, not complicated background, a bit of common sense will do. That will help you to diagnose an unknown set, a friend set, whatever. Where to measure? Is the voltage measurement right or wrong? You develop the logic, and that development of logic is only through analog. Unfortunately, today the SP road market is not having much of analog meters. So we had to create a demand for it. People, all of them go for digital. The 100 rupees, 150 rupees digital multimeter which they hang on the wall is what people use. You use it for the particular purpose and you stop using it. Your enthusiasm is lost. In fact, the students, teachers also, the lecturers also advise them to use digital meter because they themselves use digital meter, and that's why they're lecturers. They're not progressive. They're all, I'm sorry if most of some of them are here, they are basically industry dropouts. They're not progressing anything and they just want to do the work, get a salary, get out. So that's the reason why one college has asked me to take some classes there, and I'm starting an R&D department there. There's a lot of, I'm trying to bring life into what is called as BE, Bachelor of Electronics, not just brain empty at the end of the session. Okay. So, in fact, we are not going to smash big companies' market at all. More and more meets like this take place. In fact, what I'm saying is nothing but the tip of the iceberg. If more and more people come forward to make their own DIY, do it yourself, we can make far better things than and beat the Chinese. Because today Chinese are dumping things on it. They are giving us standard software buttons, rock, pop, what's that? All that is mamba, samba, tramba, and all this stuff. These are audio effects. Shut up and listen to what we are giving you. We cannot use a finger and adjust music to our level, and it's possible only with DIY. And wonderful circuits available, and you can do it yourself if you follow these basic principles. Practice some soldering on some rough things. In fact, top doctors, when they do surgery, they'll use pigs' veins and intestines to the stitching and cutting and all that, and then they'll pass water from one end, make sure this part is not bulging or leaking out. So practice a little bit, and definitely we can all do it. Then just theory, and buying some ready-made stuff, and my so and Yamaha gives this, and my Bose gives that. We can create Bose. After all, Bose was one amongst us. It was not at all recognized in India. So we are all mini Bosses, At least we can satisfy ourselves, though we can't rule the world. We know what we are doing. So self-creation is something wonderful. And soldering, multimeter, these two things, you get analog meter. In digital meter, what happens is, the moment you switch on, it's like auto rickshaw meter running. The battery is going down. And the cost of a cheap digital meter, the cost goes away when you buy a new battery. It's no longer cost effective. You are putting a new battery every now and then, and most of the batteries available in the market are all Chinese. They work only for 1 month.
No, it lasts 1 year.
Like this toys, It's so lightweight and all this stuff. Others must go for a Duracell, it's costly.
No. The basic battery lasts minimum 6 months. At least my use.
So it depends on the quality of meter, but definitely analog meter will put you on the tracks. And you can always calibrate analog meter with a known meter or digital meter. You know where you are. With that only you will progress. So talking about soldering, desoldering is also as good as important as soldering. I have brought what is called desoldering wick with me, and most of you have seen it. It's a round thing with a hole in the middle. So that's a wick. A wick means number of strands, and number of strands means it will pull solder as cohesion, surface tension method. So it will not just pull solder just like that, it will pull solder in the presence of the resin and heat. So when you get a wick, don't directly use it. This is a raw material what they give us, and for namesake, they put some kind of flux into it. If you shake the wick, jiggle it up and down, you can see fine powder coming out. That's a flux. Without the flux, solder will refuse to move. Okay? So, when you get a wick, you got to expand it with the fingers and then pull it out. Pull straight. That means it becomes slightly fatter and loose. Like how you like to Deepavali's wick, no? You just don't put the cotton into the oil. We just sort of loosen it up, the fibers, and then we wet it and we light up. So same treatment we got to give to this wick. And when you use a wick, make sure that this is dipped in the resin, not the original stuff. You loosen it up, wet it with the resin a little bit, and it becomes stiff. Then when you use it, keep it onto the surface, heat the soldering iron on top of the wick, wait for some time, and see that you concentrate only at the tip. Please don't progress, because this will become a reservoir of solder. The molten solder will keep on interfering with the PCB. So see that you cut it every 1 centimeter, half centimeter. Just keep cutting, and use fresh wick every time. So this is one hint what I'm going to give you, what I gave you. So coming to soldering iron, what soldering iron should I use? Many people buy soldering iron and straight away start a job. No, you just can't. You got to prepare the soldering iron. When you buy a brand new soldering iron, fine. If you have got soldering iron as it is working, fine. When you buy a brand new soldering iron, it is not at all friendly to you. You got to heat it up, and before it gets heated up, before heat can pick up, you dip the tip. You got a pen or something? A pen. There's a pen. See, assuming this is a tip of the soldering iron, you dip the solder onto the resin. Slowly it will melt down. Avoid oxygen contact, air contact, tip. Okay? Don't allow air to enter the tip or any contact. As you heat the soldering iron, the soldering iron will melt down into the resin, and you keep rolling it in the presence of solder. After some time, the solder will hold on to it. Keep on rolling. Only after 5 minutes it will catch on. If you try to take a fresh soldering iron, try to solder, it just won't behave. It will take 1 month to become user friendly. And of course, initially it will be very, very hot. You will pull off and put on, pull off and put on. It becomes a mess. So don't, heaven's sake, start a project with a brand new soldering iron. You got to keep playing around with it. I'll repeat once again. Assuming this is soldering iron, the tip, as you switch it on, keep it in contact with the resin, and after some time the resin will melt. This will sink down into the resin. As it sinks down, you keep on rolling the tip with this angle, and as it heat picks up, apply some solder lavishly. Keep on rolling. After some time, 5 full minutes, the tip about 1 centimeter will get coated beautifully. You can use solder on soldering in 25 watts for a regular purpose in this kind of atmosphere, because not so cold and the fan is not on. But if you want to work with a fan, you got to use 40 watts soldering iron. Okay. Under normal conditions, 25 watts soldering is more than enough. Solder on. You get good 40 watts. Probably solder is also 40 watts. But good 40 watt tip is nice and beautiful. Even that you got to treat in a similar fashion. But so long as good is switched on, you must make sure the fan is on, otherwise it gets overheated. So the heat balance is very important. The moment you take solder, you should melt like butter. Allow the solder flow, and it forms, liquid always forms its own shape, like a dew drop. Allow it to flow. You're satisfied? Take it out. No second touch. So long as soldering is on the point to be soldered, make sure the smoke is slowly going up like a lighted cigarette smoke, or like a sambrani. The soldering iron tip should never be dry. You will never get a proper flow. It will not cover the entire area. Of course, when you do a brand new soldering, a fresh kit, you get fresh components in the market. You can directly put the components onto the PCB and directly solder, because the scraping may not be necessary, because it is pre-coated, it's fresh. And when you cut the tip underneath, make sure you give one more touch, and that touch should not be instantaneous touch. Make sure you give at least 5 seconds. 5 seconds, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It takes time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Happy? Take it off. Any questions?
Yeah,
For the good ceramic tips, you no longer need a tinnet, they're sort of ready to use.
I know.
You just have to use a wet sponge.
That's right. You got to clean, keep it clean, absolutely clean. I'm talking solder and soldering. Eh? The tip will not behave at all.
The soldering actually has a aluminium tip, so I don't use the copper tip.
The inside is aluminium.
A full aluminium, one more aluminium tip comes.
So there's a coating on top. So that coating has to be maintained. So if you try to file it, the coating goes away and your tip gets worn out in no time. So in order to maintain the tip, we dip it, with brand new soldering, we dip in the resin, apply solder, keep on rolling for at least 5 full minutes. Till it behaves.
And then you use that solder that's on the iron to
No. If you are working with PCB, we do a 45-degree angle. Make, as he said, we have to clean the tip with sponge or whatever. With hot, clean soldering iron. From one side you can apply solder 45-degree angles.
Okay.
Yeah, 45-degree angle. And you use ample time because the solder is having built-in flux. When you're doing rework or coating, you use the external flux. What I'll be showing to you. So George will show you.
The question was, I mean, one of the difficulty I have is maybe after 2 months or 3 months when you don't use the soldering iron and retake it out, the tip is no longer fresh.
I don't know.
So does this process then ensure that the tip is always clean, or I mean it oxidizes?
The aluminium
Yeah, that's
tip
right.
doesn't get that problem.
Okay, it's a okay.
Aluminium tip you can clean it easily. Oh, the copper tip gets corroded very fast.
Copper does, yeah.
But make sure the tip is beautiful and solder friendly. It catches solder immediately. It's not roll. Solder is not rolled out like mercury, as it takes no rolling out. You are not ready for the job. So it's necessary that you follow these patterns and you feel like working. And I hope all of you using digital multimeter, analog multimeter. A good quality analog multimeter should have at least 5 ranges in the ohms range. X, the direct reading, X into 10, 100, X into 1K and X into 10K. These are friendly ranges because measuring the resistance is very, very important. And several advantages of analog multimeters. On the ohms range, you can create a bias voltage. Don't forget that in analog multimeter, the so-called red, so-called positive is having the negative voltage, and the so-called black lead is having the positive voltage. It's reverse. Okay, so that's a kind of voltage source, instantaneous voltage source to trigger any circuit. That's not possible in a digital multimeter. And moreover, testing semiconductors is instantaneous. We can test the semiconductor immediately. And there is a test called as continuity test and short circuit test. You see, when an unknown set is brought to you for checking up, we just can't visually check up and switch on. You have to depend on the guards before you switch on. You have to say a light prayer. We leave the guards alone. What we do is we have what's called as a continuity test. That test we perform at a positive track and a negative track. On continuity test, the meter, I'm telling on X into 10 range, let's say, X into 10 range, the meter will show a low resistance. You reverse the probes on same positive negative, the meter probe will show high resistance. These are new terms to you, but these are things which will help you develop more confidence while doing up a project. Before you switch it on, no? We don't know it's going to blow up like in cartoons, etc. We're going to switch on, bang up. So these things going up in smoke and things flying around the room, etc. These things we can be sure of. It will never happen. You perform this test because continuity test and short circuit test is based on the biasing of a transistor. So in a transistor, let's say NPN transistor, the collector is given positive and the emitter is given negative. When you give the right polarity, positive, negative, naturally it's got to have high resistance. Only when work is done, the resistance drop, that is when current is passing. Reverse bias, it naturally show low resistance. Low, I'm sorry, the deflection is low, but the resistance is, the deflection is in our short circuit test, the deflection will be very less but resistance high. For continuity test is reverse. On any, remember, electronic items will not have just one positive negative. You'll have multiple positives and negatives because each one are different circuits, different departments. It can be a preamp, it can be a buffer section, it can be a power amp or a driver stage, whatever. So on each section we have to perform this test. And we come to more complex unit, we have microprocessor involved, you got to do the test on that area also. Identify the positive and negative. The easiest way to identify positive and negatives, you look at the biggest electrolytic condenser in that area. The positive and negative areas are defined. Or you can hunt around for a diode. The diode will have a white line. That is a positive. A reference chassis. Wherever the PCB may be. We may not know what the PCB is all about. It may be some XYZ PCB, but we can certify, yes, I can switch this on. I can do the right kind of voltage, I can switch on and get out the performance. So, any questions on this country test, short circuit test?